Are you dreaming of trading your uniform for a paintbrush or your desk job for a design studio? Today on Pencil, Brush and Beyond, we're diving deep into art as a second career. I've got Kristin Steinke joining me today. She's a wonderful artist friend who spent 27 years in the military and working for the government, and now she's chosen a creative life. Get ready to be inspired because Kristin is here to show us that finding your artistic bliss as a second career isn't just a dream, it's absolutely possible for anyone who wants it. Kristin, welcome.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be on your podcast.
I'm so happy to have you.
Thank you.
I'd love it if you could tell us a little bit about how you actually went from working in the military to being an artist.
The short version is when you use one side of your brain for so long, you crave something different later. When I finished my military career, I did consulting because it was an easy transition and it was lucrative. And so I did that for 7 years after I finished with my service. But in the meantime, I have this wonderful benefit, this GI Bill benefit to use. And so I thought, I'm going to do something really fun with this opportunity. And I went back to school and I got my master's in fine arts. And I did it in photography because honestly, I didn't have the confidence to do any kind of drawing, painting, any other medium, but that felt like a creative outlet that I could do. And so I got my degree in photography and it was a lot of fun. It took a long time to finish because I did work as a consultant and did my education part time. But I loved being a student so much, I kind of wanted to drag it out because there is this security blanket around you when you're a student that it's safe to experiment and you have critiques and you have a community and all the things. So I did that for a while, but I really felt like I wanted to play with paint. And then things just kind of went that direction. And I started painting with acrylics and watercolor later. And now I'm doing digital art too. So that's kind of where I'm at.
That's so cool. So it seems like it was a big shift, switching careers. What were some of like the initial fears or hesitations you had about leaving your career to pursue something different?
I had the security of a pension. That I'll put that up front and really be transparent about that. So it was safe for me, and I know that's not very common for people to have that opportunity. But even if I didn't, and in fact, I've encouraged my kid to be an artist and to start a career in art because that's what makes him happy. Um, I really had to get outside my head. At first I thought I wasn't good enough. Then I thought no, there was no audience for my art, and it felt very self-indulgent. But all that negative talk did nothing to fuel my soul and my joy, and I just got over it and just started creating for myself. And so I painted things for my own home and for my friends, and people started liking it. And I thought, well, it sure would be fun to have some sales. And so I started reaching out to a couple galleries, and it kind of, the more you ask, the more you get. And I realized that getting out of my head and negative self-talk wasn't serving me. And it obviously didn't help me grow a career in it. So and now I feel just so much more confident about realizing there's an audience for everybody out there. And you just have to just keep playing and find your audience.
Hmm. What was your friends' reaction or family? Did you have a lot of support or were they a bit skeptical?
Definitely people were supportive, but it was a little more pacifying. So, like, you're so cute, your art's fine, nothing really, people don't really know what to say. I mean, all my girlfriends, they were very lovely and supportive. And I think my husband, as loving and supportive as he is as a human, didn't really take it very seriously until recently when I started really getting into following licensing career path and like, oh, I guess you're going to actually do this. But so, kind of the overarching theme was love and support. but not taking it totally seriously. I'm the one who had to take it seriously. I'm the one who had to really start hustling and promoting my work and pitching it, because at the end of the day, no one else is going to do that for you. You have to decide, this is what I want, no matter what anyone thinks. And so, yeah, kind of where we're at.
I think that's a really good way of looking at it. And it's about defining your own success. So,
Mm-hmm.
what does that mean to you? Like, how would you deem what you're doing successful?
I think saying to yourself, okay, what's my 1 year goal? What's my 3 year goal? What's my 5 year goal is important, because that sets some boundaries and limitations and all realistic expectations, right? And so for me, I joined this course 1 year. I call it a mentorship. It's called The Art of Collections. And you and I met there. So it's already been amazing. And really to have guidance and mentorship and have someone say, here are some steps to success. So I would tell people, look for those leaders that can guide you and mentor you, or follow their career path and take some of the steps. And people are very generous if you ask, excuse me, very generously tell you, this is how I did it, and pick a goal. So for me, I was trying to put my art in some galleries, and that is hard work. When you see a local artist having their art for sale in a gallery, know that hundreds of hours went behind every piece. The thought process, the actual creation, the hustle, peddling your things. So for me, success today is going to be in licensing for surface pattern designs. And I am pitching my work, and I have to, 5 to 10 companies a week. I have to email and say, please consider my work for your products. And, you don't get many responses, but it's a numbers game, and that's what I've learned. And you have to just keep pushing it out there. So my 1 year goal is to get licensed with at least 3 companies this year. Next, in the 3 year goal is to be licensed by 10 companies, and so on. So that's kind of the parameters I've put around success for myself. But guess what? I sit in my studio for 8 hours a day sometimes, and I'm giddy. And so I'm happy at the end of the day with just making. And that's still a measure of success.
That's great. I definitely agree with you that for me, it is a numbers game, and it is about enjoying the process as well. Um, so how have you gone about finding an audience or an initial audience for your work? And especially coming from a non-art background, what do you think of how people should go about finding an audience for the work?
I think that is still something I'm trying to do. I have to start by asking myself, what do I like? And going from there, because it's kind of like when you're a kid in school and you have a question burning, but you don't want to raise your hand. And then you realize you do raise your hand, or someone else raises their hand and they ask that question because half the class is thinking of the same question. So putting your art out there, if I like it, I promise you there's going to be an audience, because there are people that like what I like. I go to a store and I find things that I like because so many people like the same thing that they put it in the store, if that makes sense. I don't know if that even makes sense. But anyway, your audience is out there. And how do you find them? They kind of find you, but you have to put yourself out there. And that is something that is a struggle to say. It's scary to be vulnerable. It's scary for people to not like your art. But then again, who cares? You had fun creating it. You put it out there. It made you happy at the end of the day when you walked out of your studio or your office or wherever you are. And that's a win. So I think finding my audience is just going to happen organically. Yeah. I think we're going to find each other. It's going to be a meet cute one of these days. And we'll just find each other somewhere in a store or on Instagram or on Pinterest. We'll find each other. And I'm not overthinking that, quite frankly. But I do go to companies when I pitch my work and I think I love their work. I love the products, but none of it looks like my style. So just because I love it doesn't mean I'm going to pitch to them. It just means I need to find a company that looks a little more like me. And that's what I do.
That's a really interesting way of going about it. I think it's great.
Yeah.
So, with your style, do you feel like you do one particular style, or has your style evolved over time?
So I think that we all overthink style. It is maddening. You go, when I went through my master's program for photography, they kind of say develop your signature style or develop your style and make it a cohesive collection and put it out there. Well, I have a lot of styles. You can't put me in a box. I'm not going to put myself in a box. So I'm letting that question go. And I am just, there is definitely an important uh, reason we have to create cohesion in our artwork. But it doesn't mean that I can, I have to have every single collection in that same style. And it doesn't mean I have to say I have a signature style. It kind of organically happens. Um, so, for instance, if you look at my webpage, there are different styles. I have a watercolor collections and I have digital art collections, and I have some that are a little in between. Um, I paint with acrylic at my house and put it on my walls, and I love that too. Look at, I'm not vain enough to compare myself to anybody famous, but look at some famous artists, and they paint and they sculpture and they do frescoes and they do they do inventions, all the things. And do they have a style? I don't know. Would they have called themselves a particular style of artist? I don't know. But that's not that important to me, because if I get in my head and try to create a style, if you force it, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So I just go with what feels good, but I make each collection very thoughtfully curated into a one cohesive style. But that might be 12 pieces. Okay, that's done. Move that aside, go to the next collection, and then a whole new style might emerge. But it still has, my signature on it.
I think that's a really nice way of looking at it. And I like that you're independent enough to not feel like you have to fit into a box. For
Yeah.
people that do feel like, oh, they have to do creating a specific genre or aesthetic, or feel like they need to fit into a certain area, what advice do you have for them?
I would definitely tell them to look at other artists that they admire and look at their body of work and be reassured that you're allowed to have different styles. Even musical artists that you might love, they might have big ballads and they might have a rap. Who knows? So an artist is an artist because they go with their heart. They don't have to be categorized in any way. And I would, my biggest advice would be just look at another artist that you admire and see their work and say kind of give yourself permission to be a little looser with that definition.
That's great. Thank you.
Mm.
I know as artists, we all receive criticism, whether that's constructive criticism of our work or not. How is that something that you're dealing with, and how, like, what do you take on board from people, and do you decide, actually, I'm just going to dismiss that?
It's really hard to be open-minded and take criticism. I mean, we're only human and we're fragile, and when you're creative and you create something, that's very personal, and it's hard not to make it personal. So it depends on my mood. So I have a friend who's an artist who gives me tough love, and she's very salty about it sometimes, but I know what days I can request her criticism. And I know I do value it, or I wouldn't even go to her. I value her eye. And so, I'll send her something and say, what do you think of this? Knowing she's going to be very, very honest about it and say, I hate what I'm seeing in the top left corner. She did that to me yesterday. It was hilarious. She's like, what is that green blob in that flower? And I said, oh, okay. I was wondering about that myself, and I got rid of it. And I could choose to say, thank you for that. I don't care. I love the green blob in the corner. But I kind of had a little itch in my mind going, I'm not sure how this is going to play. And by asking her, it really helped to
Yeah.
validate that. But, if I'm feeling a little tender one day, I'm not going to send her my art. I'm going to send it to the other friend who is always sweet and validating and like, oh my gosh, this is so pretty. I love it. I love it. I love it. So I think it depends on your own mood, and you have to ask yourself, what are you ready to hear today? Um, because criticism can be so invaluable. And being in a community of artists like we are, that has been a game changer because that they want your art to be as good as possible. They're not just judging it, they are critiquing it. And that there's a big difference there. So I think just to be careful who you ask, because you know what answer you're going to get back, either something helpful, something judgy, or something kind. That's kind of the best way to go about it for me.
Yeah. Is there anything that you've discovered about yourself through pursuing this career change? Like anything surprising?
Oh, that's an interesting question. Discovered about myself. I think the biggest thing is that I have discovered that I'm better at this than I thought I would be. And there is this kind of paralyzing feeling sometimes when you look at a blank canvas. I think all of us have had that. It's like writers looking at a blank page. It can be overwhelming. And the power of that blankness can really make you feel like you just ate the piece of cake that makes you small in Alice in Wonderland. You're like, oh, it's monumental in front of me. Um, so when I'm feeling that way, I kind of know how to tackle it in my own way. So finding something that works for you is what's helpful. Sometimes I'll just give you an example. When I'm on my iPad and I want to start a new collection, I'll go to my photos. And so I go to my photos and I find something that's making me like smile or something. So I'll take that picture and I'll put it in Procreate and I'll just start tracing over it. And then all of a sudden, like the door opens and I'm like, oh, okay, this is where I want to go with this. And just having that little push from, okay, it's not so scary if I can just trace one of my photos and start there.
Yeah.
Then the creativity kind of flows. And that's what I've discovered about myself is that I know how to face a challenge now, and I'm not perfect. And sometimes I have the days where I just decide I'm not going to do anything but walk my dog. And that's okay too, having grace. And yeah, I'm pretty proud of the fact that now I know how to tackle that. And it's helping me really move forward in my art career.
And your work is absolutely amazing. You're making
Oh,
so
thank
much
you.
great progress.
Thank you
So
so much.
you've really made a choice to invest in yourself to progress as an artist.
Yeah.
Um, how are you finding that? Did you feel any pushback? Did you feel like, well, maybe I shouldn't do this, or it's definitely time to do this?
I'd say it's definitely time is where I felt. So for me, I take annual trips with my really close friends, which is so nice and so healing. And we had a trip last year, and I said, okay, my kid is going to college. I am officially an empty nester. My husband works full time and he is doing his thing and he's busy. Uh, I feel like this might be a good time in my life to pivot and really focus on this art career. So I said, what do you girls think about me signing up for this 1 year mentorship? And of course, they all said, why are you even asking? Because you know you want to do it. Can you afford to invest in this? And I said, yes, I can afford it because, I could cut a corner here and there to make that happen. They said, well, just do it. Just jump in and do it. And don't talk to your husband about it. Just do it. So that's what I did. And I absolutely was validated because I felt giddy. As soon as I signed up, I just felt so giddy and happy. And I knew that was the right decision. There was no regret at all.
Yeah.
And I just dove in. And it's been a trajectory. I mean, it has been like 0 to 100 in progress. I've never created more art in my life, and just having those guardrails around me to say, okay, someone is giving me assignments every month, but I'm going to go back to community, and that's just it was just that decision. Like, this is where I'm at in my life, and I'm gonna lean in now. I'm gonna just invest in myself and completely be self-indulgent, which I think women don't do enough, and follow my dream. And this is all happening, and I'm just really thrilled about it.
I think investing in yourself is one of the best things you can do. I'm so glad that I've done
Yep.
it and that I've met you and a
Yes.
bunch of other amazing artists that we can
Yes.
encourage each other. If you could give advice to somebody that is on the fence about making a similar investment in themselves, what would you say?
What do you have to lose? What do you have to lose? I'm actually working with a friend right now who she and I have been friends for 25 years, and I love her so much. She's my sister. And we were talking on the phone this morning, and I said, okay, what are your fears? Let's talk about your fears. And let's start there, because she has some fears and she wants to do this too. And I said, okay, let's talk about it. Let's address it. And then let's put that on the shelf or just, throw it out the window. Because if you really want to do this, you gotta address the fears and then make a plan to work around them. So one of her fears was, I feel like, why am I starting this in this season of my life? It's too late. And I said, okay, I get it. But when I pick up something in a store and I look at it and I love it. So I showed her this really beautiful journal that I have. And I said, I look at this journal and I love the artwork on it. And it just made me smile. I'll tell you what I didn't think. I wonder how old that artist was who made this journal cover, and what is their story. Yes, I'm curious about their story, like what inspired them to do this, but I don't care how old they were. I don't care that they haven't been an artist since they were 15 years old. I just love the journal. She's like, oh yeah, that's true. I said, okay, let's talk about the next fear. Okay, I don't want to do social media and do videos like you do, or I'm too shy. I said, okay, you're a quiet person. There are a million quiet people out there just like you that feel overwhelmed with someone like me. And then she laughed because she knows she has to take me in small doses sometimes. And then, but that's how we yin and yang each other, right? So addressing your fears is so important, and having someone who loves you validate those fears and then say it's okay. I mean, some people it's their therapist, some people it's their best friend. But I really don't want it to stop you or her or anybody from creating, because that's a beautiful thing. And there's an audience for everybody. And there's an audience for quiet people, and there's an audience for really silly, loud people. So, and they find you, you find them and they find you. That's
So,
it.
for somebody who is currently in a demanding career but they really want a creative life, have you got any practical steps? What's one practical step that they could take today to start them on the journey?
I am not an expert, but I will say make time for yourself, just like anything else. Some people meditate, some people do yoga. Make time for your art. And like on your podcast, where you say creative play is so important, just let your fears go and play. Just start playing a little bit. And that will probably, it could develop into nothing, but it could develop into an art career. Or at least a personal project. If it's just grab a notebook and start sketching, or grab your iPad and play with the brushes, because that's a rabbit hole, let me tell you, hundreds of brushes later. But someone who's busy and overwhelmed, they probably need to create more than the rest of us, because they need an outlet. Yeah, I just would say, just make time for yourself, even if it's 10 minutes a week, because usually you say it'll be 10 minutes and then it's an hour later, because you got in that beautiful flow state. And if you have little kids and you're busy and overwhelmed, create with them. Have them doing a little craft, and then you're doing a craft with them that might turn into something fun or different or bigger or nothing, but you played. Yeah, make
So
time.
what do you think is the biggest misconception people have about pursuing art as a second career?
Oh, that it's easy, that it's lucrative right off the bat. It is a hustle just like anything else that an entrepreneur would do. It is an entrepreneurial, which is a hard word for me to say, journey. You have to expect that you can't just paint or you can't just um, draw or digitally create and it'll happen. You have to face the fact that it is a business and it is a hustle. You're going to have to do some of that yucky admin stuff, and I have faced that myself, and I've had to also have to learn new things. I've had to learn different software, and I've had to learn how to organize my art. I've had to learn how to pitch my work, and really eating that elephant one bite at a time is the way to do it. But the misconception is that you can just create and magically watch it all happen. So I think realizing it is going to be an investment in time and learning, and there's going to be some yucky stuff that you don't like doing, but that's the way it is. It's a business.
Yeah, I definitely think you're right that people forget about all the admin behind everything.
Yeah,
They think it's just creating all the time.
sure. That'd be great, wouldn't it?
So,
I have found that ChatGPT has helped me in my workflow tremendously, and helped me organize that business stuff that I don't love. And that has been, and I hope you have a whole podcast on that kind of thing and how to integrate AI and not fearing AI as an artist. But it is really, really helpful. So there are tools out there if you don't like that stuff that really can help you get over that pain point of admin work.
that's a good point. I've used it to create spreadsheets because spreadsheets are not my thing.
Nope. Nope.
But what would you say is the most rewarding aspect of your journey so far?
I think really bringing joy into my own life and to the lives of people who enjoy my art, because the world is heavy and there's lots of heavy things going on always. There always has been. And many people, I'm not going to say everybody, but many people turn to art as a way of escaping, not just escaping reality, but enhancing their reality. So bringing beauty into your life, look around your house and you have art in some form. You have a book or you have a painting or you have a photograph on your wall. That's art. And bringing joy to the world through that is just so rewarding. And being a part of that community that brings beauty and stories and important things too. I mean, art isn't always pretty. It's important to, in a safe way, to voice support. I have a whole collection on being an ally to the LGBTQIA plus community, because that's a gentle way of me supporting a community without being angry at things that go on in the world. I want to do it in a loving, colorful, beautiful way, to, put a sun in the sky where there's a rain cloud.
And that's such a beautiful collection that you've done, and it's so important. And I
Thank
just think
you.
it's nice that you can include those things in your work and not be afraid of
Yeah.
like what the world is saying about things. You can actually put that out there and show some support.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what brings me joy and makes me kind of get excited about going in my studio every day.
So what does it look like for you now? What's a typical day compared to how it used to be? How have things changed for you?
Oh, I would love to turn that around on you. Um, when I have a podcast. Typical day is about 3 cups of coffee, a dog walk, and then I'll be working on a collection. And I want to it depends where I'm at with that collection. So sometimes the most fun is the beginning. Then I can start creating, or in the middle when I have a flow already going and I keep creating. So it depends on what stage I'm in the collection development. Nat, I will typically be, okay, I'll talk about today. Yesterday, I finally finished this hand lettering collection that we were all working on. Mine's not hand lettered, but it is a lettering collection. I finished it last night. So today, after this call, I'm going to be uploading all of the stuff from my iPad onto my computer. Then I'm going to be putting it on my website, and then I'm going to come up with a strategy for promoting it. And I'll have maybe a to-do list of 10 things today that I might tackle 3, and that'd be a win. But having that kind of the list and knowing this is what I'm doing today really helps me kind of feel satisfied and checking those boxes. And today's my admin day, and that's okay. Today's my admin day. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do stuff on the computer. I'm not going to turn on the television. I am not going to get too distracted with other things. I'm not going to look at social media. I'm just going to do my admin stuff, because then that gives me a little more permission tomorrow to play with some creativity for my next collection.
So, Kristin, where can our listeners find your work and connect with you online?
I call my business Blackbird Art and Design. And so Blackbird Art and Design on Instagram, and with underscores in between. And so I'm posting regularly on there because social media to me is overwhelming, and I'm just sticking with one platform for now, and that is it. And my website for sure, KristinMSteinke.com. And I keep posting there. I'm starting with LinkedIn, I'm starting with Pinterest, but really I'm focusing on those 2 locations. So I've also been slowly uploading my work on Printify and Redbubble, but really you just go to my website and you'll see all the things and all the links. And that's really where I want to direct traffic. And I'm starting in June, I'm starting a newsletter, and I'll have some freebies. So I'm excited to launch that. And I would love for people to sign up on my website for inclusion into the communications. That'll be a really fun other community to build.
Excellent. Well, thank you for being on the podcast. It's been great. Thanks for sharing your story and all your valuable insights with us as well.
Thanks, Nat. You're so sweet to include me. I really have enjoyed listening to your podcast. It makes me so happy, and I always feel kind of this creative spark after listening to you. Like, okay, I'm going to go do some play today, or I'm going to be gentle with myself today, and it's nice. And I like your vibe.
Thank you so much. Okay, so Kristin has given us some great advice. Art does not have to just be a hobby. If you want it to be a career, it definitely can be. And if Kristin's journey from military uniform to artist has sparked something in you, you absolutely need to connect with her. So don't forget to head on over to our website. There will be a link in the description. And don't forget to sign up to our newsletter. Thank you for listening, and I will see you next time.
Bye.